All right, we talked to so many people who are moving to the Oregon coast, and not everybody wants the little beach cottage, the old 50-year, 100-year-old home with, maybe the charm and the historic character. A lot of people are looking for new construction. There's obviously a ton of benefits when buying new construction, whether it's at the Oregon coast or anywhere else. In this video, we're going to talk about buying new construction homes on the Oregon coast, and all that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul Clem, licensed broker with eXp Realty, and in this video we're going to talk about buying new construction at the Oregon coast. A lot of people gravitate toward new construction and that's what they want right out of the gate. Some people might like new construction, but they might like older homes, something in between. There's obviously a big range in terms of what you can get in terms of age, style, size, location, all of that. And new construction, of course, has a ton of benefits. First and foremost, there's no deferred maintenance, right? So if everything is new, it's not like the roof has to be done in the next 5 years. It's not like you're going to need a new furnace in the next 5 years, and down the line. So that in and of itself, especially in a market, in a climate, in a region where homes can really take a beating. I mean, the closer you are to the ocean, the more moisture and salt exposure your home is getting day in and day out, and things just don't last as long. There's more required maintenance. We've talked a lot about that. In fact, we have a video talking to a home inspector on the Oregon coast about home maintenance, what you can do and what are the issues that you are going to commonly expect, with a home at the beach on the ocean. But when you're buying new construction, a lot of that is going to be at least further out, right? And if you can stay up with the maintenance, you can extend the life of your, all the systems of the home, exterior, interior, external hardware in particular, but also your HVAC and all of the things that can be affected by the climate at the Oregon coast. Now, if this is your first time to the channel or you've been here and you haven't already and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button, tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. Now, the first real big thing to know, if you're looking for new construction specifically at the Oregon coast, or if you're just curious about new construction at the Oregon coast, so I just did a quick search on Zillow for new construction, primarily because there's two MLSs for the Oregon coast. Primarily it's the regional MLS, which really is the whole state, and then you have Lincoln County, Central Oregon coast, has its own MLS. So a quick look at Zillow will give you both in one. I did a search for new construction right now between single-family homes, townhomes, and condos. There are 61 listings for new construction. Now, some of these listings, sometimes they'll list a floor plan, and there are several different lots in a development available. There's not a ton of that going on really anywhere on the Oregon coast. You can find it, but those types of developments and communities are few and far between. You're more likely to find new construction that's just a one-off lot that somebody bought and then just built 1, 2, 3 homes depending on the size of the lot. You see a ton of that. Some people will buy a bigger chunk of land, so you can find new construction on a half acre or an acre. That's probably the most rare scenario, but more likely to find that in more rural areas like on the Oregon coast than in a major metro area. For example, in Portland and really up and down the I-5 corridor, close to Salem, Corvallis, Eugene, there's a fair amount of new construction going on, but these developments are getting packed in with homes. Builders are putting as many properties in these areas as possible. The lot sizes are very small, so you don't have a ton of yard, you're crammed in there. That's really a common theme with new construction. But again, on the Oregon coast, you can find one-off homes where a builder, somebody bought land. Sometimes it can be a little bit bigger, even if it's like a quarter acre. So you can find some of that on the Oregon coast. But the point being is that from Astoria to Brookings, 363 miles, and between a couple dozen plus cities and towns, only 61 listings for new construction. So if you're holding out for new construction exclusively, it can be a little bit harder, because whereas it's not like it's not there necessarily, but to be exactly what you're looking for is a little bit harder to find. So, based on size, the number of bedrooms you would want, the type of community you would want to be in, the town you want to be in, the finishes and the amenities and things that maybe the builder chose when they built the property, it is really slim pickings. So having a home built is for sure a possibility. So again, 61 current listings for new construction, and a lot of people are going to go into this process maybe looking for new construction, but they don't necessarily want to go through the process of buying a lot, buying land, getting it build ready, shovel ready, finding a builder, going through all that due diligence, all those steps, ultimately to have a home built. Definitely possible though. And there are custom builders, there are volume builders that you can work with, like Adair Homes, for example, has been great anytime I've interacted with them. There's another builder out here called Highline that does a lot of work. I haven't heard as many good comments about Highline, but I haven't worked with them specifically. We did sell a house or help somebody buy a house that was built by Highline, that was completed, and then the person who had it built, decided just to sell it right away. So I have been in a couple of Highline homes, but either way, there, again, there are going to be custom builders as well. Few and far between, really, for the most part, up and down the Oregon coast. There are builders, there are custom builders. There are builders that will have floor plans ready, and you can customize a little bit from there in terms of finishes and maybe tweak the layout a little bit. Often, a lot of people will work with a larger builder, maybe not necessarily more established, but somebody who just does more in general, that might be located, say, like in the Willamette Valley in Western Oregon, maybe from the Portland area, for example. It's not uncommon for builders in Portland and Salem and Eugene to go out to the coast and do a build for somebody. So there are different options, there's a range of options in terms of cost, in terms of what's possible, who you're working with, and it's not impossible to buy land and build, but most people, from my experience, start going down that path, start adding up the numbers, but more specifically, looking at the time and effort and energy it takes. And a lot of people do back away ultimately and decide not to go forward with having a home built. So everybody's tolerance is different, everybody's timeline is different in terms of when they would need something completed and when they would need to move into a home. But that really is a big process, down from identifying a lot, looking at zoning, what's allowed, are utilities there, what's it going to take to bring utilities in, what's the cost going to be, do you have to level the lot at all, do you need to do a soil test, a geo survey, do you need to bring in additional engineers, depending on the slope of the lot and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot to it. So on the other end of that, if we are identifying properties that are nearly completed, near completion, or already built and listed for sale, there's going to be a range in terms of what you can get there too, as far as quality, like we talked about, lot size, location. Is it just a one-off build? Is it a half an acre that was built and then that was subdivided into maybe 3 different lots? There's going to be a really big range there. So we definitely want to find out who the builder is. We definitely want to look into their reputation. We definitely want to look into how much business they do, how many homes they build, how long they've been doing it. And then we want to go through and look at the finishes. We want to look at kind of the workmanship and the quality of the work. Did they cut corners, things like that. I mean, that's all pretty easy to identify once you actually walk through a new construction. So we want to be able to really look at the final product. We want to be able to do as much research as possible about the builder. We ask as many questions as possible of the listing agent. What does the builder provide in terms of a warranty and ongoing service as far as maintenance and things like that. Some builders are going to be very hands-on, providing walkthroughs before closing, and in particular in the 12 months after closing, fixing any little issues, be it cosmetic or anything else that may come up in that time. So there's obviously a lot to discuss when it comes to new construction, whether it is the builder warranty, for example, what you can expect, what types of builders are building at the Oregon coast, whether you're purchasing a home that was just finished or you're building a home yourself. So we can dig into a lot of that. And if this is something that is speaking to you a little bit, if you are leaning a little bit more toward a new build, definitely give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email. Click the link down below in the description of the video. We can schedule time to talk about new construction at the Oregon coast and dig into some of these details a little bit further. So one of the biggest questions we get with new construction is, do we need to get a home inspection? So like we talked about on the Oregon coast, homes really take a beating. A 10, 15-year-old home, but especially a 50, 60, 70-plus-year-old home, there's going to be some deferred maintenance. There's going to be a laundry list of items that would come up in an inspection. That's to be expected no matter what. That's just part of the process. That's how things go. Now with a new construction, the expectation is that there aren't any issues because this is a home that was just built, right? But we always recommend getting a home inspection for new construction. There are always items that come up on new construction, whether it is like a sewer line, for example. That's something that we hear about a lot, where if this was a construction site, maybe the sewer line went in, maybe they had, you had heavy equipment going over where the sewer line was installed. You see sewer lines that can get cracked because of things like that happening. And then a lot of the other issues that an inspector might find with new construction is just little things that maybe were rushed at the end. In particular, builders are up against a timeline or a deadline rather. They're trying to get things done. You work so hard to get to the point where you're just, doing the final touches and finishes, where a lot of those things can get rushed. So it's easy to identify most of those things, but a lot of it is, maybe going to be in the crawl space or in the attic or in areas where it's not as easy just when we're touring a property to identify, a little bit of sloppy paint here and there, or some hardware that's loose. Those are really little things that can be fixed very easily, and builders are typically more than happy to correct those things. But there are sometimes some bigger issues that an inspector will find that otherwise wouldn't have been uncovered, that maybe not today is an enormous issue, but if left untreated, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line could be a major problem. But either way, obviously, again, there are a ton of benefits with buying new construction. It's bright, it's shiny, it's typically more modern, or at least consistent with modern styles that most people like. So not only is there not going to be the deferred maintenance, again, there might be some issues, but typically those can get uncovered with an inspection and corrected, and it's not going to be a huge deal. But also, you're not going to have to come in and renovate. You're not going to have to come in and remodel. You're not going to have to come in and paint or change out the cabinets. Maybe you do a little bit of painting. So much of what you see in new construction now is pretty stark white, so maybe you add some colors here and there, but you're not going to have to replace the flooring. You're not going to have to replace plumbing fixtures, lighting. Maybe you switch out a light fixture, but a lot of that stuff is super simple. Most of it is already done, and it's just ready to go. And I think a lot of people really like that. Now, there definitely are some downsides to buying new construction. I don't think it would have anything to do with the quality necessarily. There are pretty strict standards, that builders have to follow. And actually, that reminds me, speaking on the inspection, an inspector is not a code inspector, right? So they might call something out that's not up to code. But that's more for your knowledge, and they're not saying definitively what is code and what's not. So a home inspection is not meant to go through and identify what is up to code and what isn't. So if there is something where there's a question mark, which an inspector might point out and say, hey, maybe you should have this looked at, there might be additional inspection required, whether that be the county or the city or some other type of contractor. But again, builders are going to have pretty strict standards that they're going to be following. So it's not really a question of quality necessarily. When it comes down to finishes, trim, baseboards, things like that, there can be higher quality, maybe better materials, or more kind of quote unquote builder grade materials that are used. So there will be a range there for sure. But overall, some of the downsides of buying new construction are more related to maybe being a little bit cookie cutter, especially if you are in a development with 50 homes, or even if it's just, again, a piece of land, half an acre, where 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many homes were built, they're all going to be probably packed in there pretty tight. They're all going to have probably a pretty similar look and feel. So it can feel a little more cookie cutter, maybe lack a little bit of that character, especially that you can get at the Oregon coast with kind of the coastal vibe and beach cottages and things like that a lot of people really like. And the style choice too. So just because it's new doesn't mean it's exactly what you want. So I was saying that if you're buying new construction, it's going to be pretty current in terms of what the typical styles are that people are gravitating toward, but just because most people like one style doesn't mean you do necessarily. And that is where you come in and, maybe do change some light fixtures, add some wallpaper, which is really popular right now, or add a little bit of color here and there. And there's a lot you can do where, you could look at it like a blank slate, come in and really kind of make it your own. But a lot of those finishes, if you're buying a home that's already built and already finished, a lot of the interior finishes like cabinets and paint and flooring and things like that, you don't get to choose necessarily. Whereas if you were going in to renovate a home, buying a home to remodel, you have a lot more choice in what the finished product looks like. I would say the other downside of new construction too probably is that you're almost always going to be priced pretty well above comparable homes in terms of size, location, lot size, number of bedrooms, things like that. Now, condition obviously is where those will diverge quite a bit, and again, new construction always is going to be in better condition overall than a home that is even 10 years old. There's just no getting around that in particular. So the added value is definitely there. But if you're looking for really kind of anything in terms of age, maybe you want a little bit newer, but it doesn't have to be new construction, you're probably going to find that a lot of what you're seeing for new construction is going to be priced a little bit higher. I have seen circumstances where, maybe if you look at two comparable homes, maybe one built in 2000, one built in 2024, both for sale, both again very comparable overall. The new construction might be listed $150,000 higher than this home, and that might not totally be justified necessarily. So you run into that a little bit, and that is just something that I think you would, in terms of an expectation, shouldn't be surprised to see some of that if you are looking for new construction. But overall, if you are looking for new construction on the Oregon coast, again, it is sparse. There's not a ton of it out there necessarily, but it is possible. It might be worth the wait, especially if you really, really want to get new construction. You definitely can identify land, find a lot, find a builder, and go that direction too. And we've helped people do that. So that is a path you can go down. Obviously, the path of least resistance is finding a home that was just built, just completed, or completed in the last 6-8 months, something like that. But either way, if you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, if you want to learn more about new construction, maybe building a home, or if you just want to talk about your move overall, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, click the link down below in the description of the video, schedule a Zoom call with us, and we can talk more about all of that. Now, if this video is helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.